Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the Mercedes-Benz 300D turbo diesel. It is time to dig a little bit deeper into this. If you saw the last video on this, I have been trying to make it idle better because it's idling all over the place and the cold start is really bad, smoking and all that. Once it's hot, it's better, but the idle is still all over the place. I have tried a lot of stuff. Michael, who owns this car, has tried a lot of stuff. The fuel tank has been cleaned and the injectors has been cleaned again and again. The tip is brand new, fitted by a Bosch workshop. It's just a difficult thing to figure out what's wrong. But there is one elephant in the room that both me and Michael has been ignoring a little bit because it's complicated. It could be the compression being low on a couple of cylinders. What speaks against that is that this car really pulls. It's a fast car comparing them to other similar Mercedes 300 turbo diesels that I have driven. There's a lot of go in this. So that points towards the engine being pretty healthy, but maybe it's just sealing up a little better. If the piston rings are bad, they will maybe seal up because of the oil when it really is being pushed. I just don't know, but I did a leak down test on it and showed problems on cylinder number 2. The blow-by is rather high. I don't know how much is normal on these. Of course, it's not normal to have a lot of blow-by, but it's an engine with 500,000 kilometers on the clock. Of course, it's a bit worn. So blow-by is maybe okay, but I think there's something wrong with cylinder number 2 and maybe also with cylinder number 4. That's my theory. So today I'm going to do what we should have done last time and do a proper compression test on all of them. The reason why I didn't do that is you can't just use a regular petrol one. I did that last video actually, but it won't show you anything precise because it goes to around 300 psi. These are supposed to be at around 400, 350, 400 psi. So I got a proper gauge now, or let me rephrase that. Michael bought a compression gauge for this and lent it to me. So I'm going to do the compression test today. I think according to the manual, it should be done on a hot engine. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to have it standing around smoking a lot just to get it hot. So I'm going to do it on cold engine. That could mean that the compression figures is going to be slightly lower than when it's hot because it will seal up a little better when it's hot and the oil is on the cylinder walls and all that. But the main thing here is to make a compression test on all 5 under the same conditions. So maybe I will get a slightly lower compression ratio, but what I'm really looking after is consistency. I would like to see them being pretty close to each other. I think normally I'm looking at 10% or 15% maybe as a maximum between the cylinders. I think it will be slightly less on a diesel. So I hope to not see much more than 5%. And what I really am expecting is to see a massive drop on this one. Since it was here last, I can see it has forced a lot of oil out of the oil cap and out of the breather hose right here. It tells me the blow-by is pretty bad on this. If I start it up and take this one off, it is a bit of a steam train also. So what I'm going to do now is to remove all of the spark plugs. Then I'm going to force this one to be down here so the pump is not pumping in any fuel, as little as possible, because I really don't want it to start. It won't start without the glow plugs. It would be a pretty big compression leak, of course, but that is what I'm going to do. So I will take you back when I got all the glow plugs out and fitted the compression gauge to cylinder number 1. Look at this. A diesel compression tester. What a cool piece of kit. Michael, you can just leave this here if you don't have the space for it in your own workshop. This is pretty cool. It's quite expensive though, and it's the first time ever that I have had the need to do a compression test on a diesel, but if you need it, this tool is really nice. Then I can take the old, or the glow plug from the Benz and find an adapter that fits. I would say it's this one. And we can go and put that into the car. And then in the end of that, we can fit this junction thingy like that. And then the gauge on this one. This is pretty nice. So let's start with number 1. I got all glow plugs out. I got the stop mechanism stripped down. So it shouldn't really squirt in any fuel, and it won't fire up either because the compression is low. So we hope that will work. You will also notice that the wires for the spark plug or the glow plug is of course removed. If you do this, you need to take care of that when you put the car in the ignition, these will be live. So it's important to not short it on anything. As soon as the engine starts to crank, it should no longer be live, but I'm unsure about that. So make sure it doesn't touch any part of the metal because it will short out like that. And then I'm gonna crank the engine up, and I'm going to crank it for 6 revolutions on all of them. It's important to have some consistency in this. What I'm going to listen for is it will be cranking really quickly because of the low compression on all of them without the glow plugs, but one of them would be tight, so one of them would be wogodogo, wogodogo. So and I can just count 6 times and then read the measurement. Just about 20 bars or 290 psi. That is low compression because it's supposed to be 400 from new and at least over 300 to run. But remember, this engine is cold right now, so it will become higher once the engine is hotter and running. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I at least are not sure that it's a problem with 290 on a cold engine. But what is going to be exciting is to check the next one. I was actually expecting this one to be good. So maybe this is the baseline for a good cylinder on this engine. I was really expecting to see something like 350 on number 1 actually. But I am not that experienced with diesel, so I don't know if it really gets a lot higher when the engine is hot, but 290 is low. I can't remember what's the minimum compression is to actually make the diesel auto ignite, but it's just about there. Let's try the next one, which I was expecting to be the bad one. At least it's the one with the blow-by measured in the previous video. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. That was a surprise. Next up, we're going to measure cylinder number 4 because number 3 I cannot get to using that kind of adapter. There's just not enough room to get that 90-degree angle on there. It fouls on the pump. So if needed, I will take the injector right here out to test that one. The reason why I say if needed is that if we find 400 psi, for instance, on this one, we know that we have an issue with the compression over here. I got all doors open at the moment and I'm not anywhere close to the engine after the compression strokes because there is some fumes coming from the diesel and I don't want to breathe that. So I just step away until it settles. It's a couple of minutes, it's a minute later now and it's settled. And I could see this when I jumped out of the car. We have a massive problem on this one. A massive problem on this one. This is interesting because I really thought that number 2 was a big problem. I also noticed that that cylinder number 4 was not firing either when I loosened up the injector the first time around. But this cylinder is completely dead according to this one. So I think we can assume that 290 is okay on this engine. On this cold engine, it could be maybe 350 or something. If it's hot, I don't know. But all I know is that this is a massive problem. I'm going to redo the test on this one just to be sure. It's the same, really poor. I'm going to test the last one. I don't think I'm going to bother with the one that I couldn't get to just now, because we know we have a problem at cylinder number 4. Just would like to check number 5. But something is wrong at number 4. Okay, saying this is going to sound a bit weird, and it's not just because it's not my car, but I'm kind of happy to find something really wrong in one of them, because I was puzzled. I am no diesel expert, but I have worked on enough of them to be puzzled about this issue, if it was fuel delivery or injectors or anything like that. I'm still pretty surprised that it's running so nicely, but 4 working cylinders and a turbo is maybe enough on the go. Or maybe that cylinder is coming to life when the revs goes up. It could be sealing better because of the oil. I cannot get to number 4 or number 5 either without taking out the injectors. I actually got the crusher rings for them, so I might end up taking those 2 out to check them. So I removed this injector and getting ready to do a compression test on that one. I also removed the throttle linkage to get access to this that I would like to take out next. So all this over here is a contraption to make sure that it doesn't fire up. So let's try cylinder number 3. $19 bar or 275 psi. I refitted the glow plug, by the way, because otherwise it will just leak out there. Let's take out the next injector. Using this tool, brought to me by Michael, homemade. That's really nice. There we go. I'm keeping a track on the injectors to put them in the right same position as I took them out. Shouldn't matter much, but I just like to do that. Remember the flame trap, and then move the adapter from that. It's a really nice compression tool, because there's just an adapter for everything. Of course, it would be nice to fit through the glow plugs on all of them, but that's not possible. But this is possible. It's a bit of a waste of time because we know we have a problem now, but just would like to test all of them. Okay, so my dream was actually to do a leak down test on the bad cylinder now. But I do not have anything that can combine and fit, because my leak down tester won't fit the injector hole. It won't get into the glow plug because of clearance issues. So it can't really fit my leak down tester. But what I can do, and it's pretty unnecessary at this point because I think this engine needs a rebuild. But here are the numbers that I get from this engine. Remember, this is done on a cold engine. It's supposed to be done on a warm engine, but I am not working quickly enough to do that. So I have done it on a cold engine, so the numbers might be lower, but I'm looking at the consistency of the numbers. We got 290 on number 1 and number 2. I think that could be okay. Maybe that's 350 hot, I don't know. But it's looking fine. Next one, 230. It's way less than 290. That's a big gap. Number 4, 130. That's really bad. And number 5 is up at 275, which is okay. So I think 1, 2, and 5 could be all right, albeit maybe a bit worn. But what I want to do now is to test number 4 again, because 130 is a problem. So I'm going to test it again. Then I'm going to add some oil to that cylinder and test it again. If the PSI rating shoots up, then we know we have a problem with piston rings. And if we have problem with piston rings, it's going to be a rebuild. So that's the next test. 10 bars. I'm gonna add around a tablespoon of oil to this cylinder. 11 bar. It's really not a huge increase. It could be valve adjustment. I did check valve number 2, but I didn't check valve number 4. Oh, it would be really nice to do a leak down test on that cylinder, to be honest. It would be really nice. Okay, so it goes up 1 bar with oil in the barrel. That's not a lot. It's not conclusive, at least in my opinion. What I want to do as the last thing is to check the valve adjustment on that valve, on that cylinder. That's the last thing I can do. It would be nice to do a leak down test on it, but it's not possible to fit anything that I got. Therefore, and it's not going to fix anything. It would just tell me where the leak is going, if it's going down or into the intake or into the exhaust. But checking the valve would tell me if that is all right. If that is all right, then it's a matter of maybe, if you're lucky, broken valves, missing pieces of the valve. It could be burned. But anyway, it's a cylinder head off job anyway. So no matter what it is, it will require some disassembling of the engine. So that's the last thing I'm going to do, and then I'm gonna give in on this one. So I just checked the exhaust valve and now turned the, that was completely fine. Now I turned the engine and going to check the, yeah, the intake is just fine as well. It's not a valve adjustment job. I'm not going to be able to go any further on this. All I can say is we have maybe a 1 engine overall, but especially on cylinder number 4, it's really bad. I can't get it above 140 psi. The others are all above 275. So no, there's one at 230, I think. But anyway, it's really bad on this one. I am pretty sure we have piston rings wear and cylinder bore wear on this engine, but it could be other things. All that I know is it's not possible to do more in my workshop now because the cylinder head needs to come off, or you need to leak down test it to figure out where that leak is going. That won't matter much in terms of what needs to be done, because no matter where that leak is going, the cylinder head is coming off as a minimum. Oh yeah, I just thought of one more thing to check. I pressurized the coolant system. It is standing at 9 bars at the moment. It's been like that for a long time. The reason why I did this is, in theory, it could be a gasket leaking compression into the coolant system. That I'm pretty sure would have been noticed because it would just blow out all the coolant when driving. I just wanted to check. It can still be a head gasket issue because in theory it could be a gasket leak into the oil channel only, but it's highly unlikely. Anyway, even if it's just that, it's a cylinder head off job. So I would just like to add that I am no expert in this. I could be overlooking something, but I'm pretty sure that my conclusion is correct. The cylinder head at least needs to come off on this. I'm still puzzled about how well this car drives off idle. Maybe the other cars that I'm comparing it to was even more worn out, but those were running pretty nicely. But it's just pulling so nicely, this one, so it's a surprise. But maybe it's just because when oil really gets sloshed up in those bores, it will seal up and you won't really notice. And it's just at idle that it shows the problem. I don't know. But it is running pretty nicely off idle, in my opinion. Anyway, this will be all for now. I'm not sure that this will be featured in the future, because that's up to Michael what the next step is going to be. Engine rebuild, engine swap, who knows? It's always sad to find out that an engine needs a rebuild. On the other hand, if it was mine, I wouldn't be too sad, because I think it could be quite fun to rebuild one of these. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.